Hey there, Empowered Tribe. It's Angela T. Moore. You're getting ready to experience the 5th episode of Empowered, a health and wellness podcast where I share my personal journey of health and healing, tips for mental and physical health, interviews with health and wellness experts, and those bold enough and vulnerable enough to share their own journeys to empower you to succeed in yours. We know that life can be rewarding. It can also be challenging. It has its ups and downs, highs and lows. I learned that with a strong mind and a fit body, you are better able to grow through and grow from whatever life throws your way. My goal is to share journeys of health and wellness, as well as tips and information from extraordinary people all around the world to help you live an empowered life. My guest, Michael Wynn, a native Detroiter and founder of Coach Wynn, LLC, and Wingate Associates, is a habit success strategist, certified authenticity coach, and certified financial literacy trainer, where he teaches, consults, and trains both individuals and business teams with identifying, designing, and using successful habits to gain a strong wealth management system for long-lasting stability. Michael is also a speaker and a 2-time best-selling author of Habits Don't Lie, 7 Habits to Overcome Obstacles to Win, and The Habit Effect, Your Life and Your Money. In this episode, Michael shares his own journey of transformation, as well as tips and strategies to embrace positive energy, create better health habits, and how to overcome obstacles to win. I hope you enjoy the episode. Michael, you describe yourself as a habit success strategist, certified authenticity coach, and certified financial literacy trainer. That's a mouthful. Yes. Can you talk about who you are, what you do, and how you do it?
Yes, I'll be delighted. I am a habit success strategist by way of finding the usefulness of habits. By trade, my background is in finance. I was a financial auditor for many years, in which I determined other people's habits because I had to audit them. And I became an authenticity coach as well as a financial literacy trainer. So my background was, when I started out, I would audit different school districts, different industries, as well as I was selected as the first auditor in charge for the first casino built here in Michigan, which was MGM Grand in Detroit. So I learned a lot about situations where habits were so useful. So in that regards, when I retired, I determined that I had to continue my background in that field. So I connected my financial backgrounds with habits. And my story will tell you later why the habits are so strong in my life.
Well, it's interesting when you talked about habits that you mentioned other people's habits. And I think we can learn a lot by observing what people habitually do or don't do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you and I have spoken on a couple occasions about your books and your desire to help people. And I love the way you put it, embrace positive energy, create better health habits, and overcome obstacles to win. And it's really cute because you do a kind of play on your name, last name Wynn, and emphasize winning, which is such a thing I think we all aspire to do, to feel like we're winning in our lives. But I don't know necessarily that we know exactly how to do it and do it consistently, and to really feel that we've won once we get to the end of specific parts of our journey. But recently when we spoke, you shared a more personal aspect of your own journey, and you kind of described it as a journey of transformation that I thought would be very empowering to those that would have the honor of hearing it. And so I want to take the opportunity today to ask you, can you share that journey in more detail with those that I know will be looking to be empowered? That's why they're going to tune into my Empowered podcast.
Yes.
And that I think would benefit from you sharing that amazing journey.
Yes, as you know, we all go through some type of situation, especially we want to be professionals or our career tracks. So as a financial specialist and working in environments, I wanted to be the best. I kind of like modeled my great grandfather who had a farm, and we had to go out every summer and pull a Johnson grass up. And he was the most person we saw as had the abundance. So we learned from him. And he would always say, write the plan and work the plan. So through that, I would just determine I had to be somewhere connected with a business as a business person. So I started out and I had a paper route, and then I had those little things like I would find stuff in the garbage and I would sell it. And it grew to me to understand that I wanted to be in accounting with a financial background. So I went to school, got my accounting degree. I was fortunate to get an auditor position as well. I started out with this rush of doing things. Like I had a business in the fleet market where I did income taxes. I also did bookkeeping, and I also sold stuff from a closeout market. So I was just doing so much.
Okay.
And each event of moving to the next level, I did it because I was just on go. I didn't measure preparation, stop, start. I just measured go. And in that instance, I was fortunate to, like I mentioned earlier, to get a couple advances. One was when I was with the state of Michigan, and then I moved to both areas of the state of Michigan. I moved to a higher position as an auditor in charge. And I had situations where I wasn't paying attention to myself. You know, I would often find ways where I wasn't sure if I was just the noisy person, or that was just a part of me that had to work through something. And I found myself at a point where I just didn't fit or feel that I was operating in a way that I should be with my family, quality time. So I had to take a step back to find out what was going on. And at that particular time, I found that I was faced with a disorder, bipolar depression disorder. And that just came as me collecting my thoughts because I commuted back and forth. And then I went through a transition of denying that I had this situation, this problem that I had to deal with. So I came to the conclusion that I would go and get help. And at that point in time, it was a very different situation for a doctor to not only tell you that you had a bipolar disorder, but that he wants to put you on lithium, and then Prozac, and then Prozac and Depakote. People don't know what Depakote. Depakote is for seizures, but the wisdom minds of the medical industry back there thought that that would be a good anti-depression drug. So I had to deal with that the same time that I had this desire to complete, to stand out with my job. So having both of these different things in this medication that made me different, made me feel different.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so when you say different, like what was it that you noticed about yourself that was problematic on the medication?
On the medication, prior to the medication, actually, I was very irritated in a ways, but didn't notice it. And my family would tell me. When I got on the medication, it slowed me down, but I was fighting against the irritation of not doing what I wanted to do. And then being on the medication that sort of settled me, but made me feel like a zombie sometimes.
I've heard that, yes.
It put me in a zombie zone, and you're fighting against something that, you know, you really don't know how to deal with it, you know. And so it was interesting transition as far as finding out, was I really this way? When I got on the medication, I kind of looked back because I had my sons were at a young age where they can see me, and they used to mock me. And they gave me the name of the Hulk. If anyone knows the cartoon character Hulk, this mild-mannered person that turns into this mean green monster. And I come home, and I caught them mimicking my anger, because at that time, not knowing how to deal with a bipolar depression disorder. You go through these stages of being manic at one point in time, and then you want forgiveness. And so that's what they were mocking. This happy person, but then clean up the room, do this, you know, do the certain things that you're supposed to, and then they'll make this grunting sound. And I just saw that, and it kind of...
I have a question. Yeah. I just want to get a better understanding of timeline here.
Yeah.
Because I understand that you were starting to recognize some things in yourself, and it prompted you to go and get obviously an official diagnosis and get medication. But you said something that was really significant about your children kind of mimicking you, right? And describing you as this kind of Hulk person. And anybody that's familiar with the Hulk, he's this gentle person, and then he turns into the green, right? Yeah. Giant. Is that something, was it your kids telling you or mimicking you that prompted you to go get an official diagnosis, or were you already thinking that something was an issue?
That and many things.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would work probably 80 hours with 16 hours of sleep. I mean, I didn't sleep, and I wasn't tired. Okay. And that, as a result of that, and seeing that, yes, that was a big part of it, because it was embarrassing, because, you know, I can calculate being embarrassed and sometimes not even caring. I don't, you know, I couldn't control how I felt. I just had to get things done. I was just on go. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that in such, I think, a vivid way. I believe that people, when they have a mental disorder, oftentimes they suffer for a long time before they actually go to a doctor and get an official diagnosis.
Especially men.
Yeah.
Especially men.
Yeah. Do you think that, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that men are reluctant to actually go seek help?
Because we feel that we're the person that needs to do it all regardless. We feel that sometimes a doctor can't really tell us what we need to do. We'll figure it out. Until you crash and burn. I got up one morning and sat in a car. Actually, I was going to work, and there was a scent of a skunk. And the skunk, it was deep. It was like early in the morning. I get up, and I sat in the car for some reason and just thought about, this has got to be weird. And for some moment, I just felt that didn't nobody really care or appreciate what I needed. And I pulled the car in the garage, and I just, at that moment, was just looking at little different things. There was a shelf that was sort of crooked. And why I remember that, I don't know. I don't even know why I focused on that. And I decided I'm going to shut the garage door and just turn the car on, and don't nobody care about me. And for that moment, when I thought about just being in the situation that I was in, I had a daughter who was an aspiring doctor, wanted to be a doctor. She is a doctor, but at that time she was a kid and wanted to be a doctor. That's also one. So at that time, I just thought about the things that morning. And so I turned the car off, went into the house, went to sleep. Everybody thought I was at work, because I leave it early in the morning. They don't get up until 9 or so. And I just laid there, and I found that I have to make a change, you know. And that's when I started my journey. I started my journey as far as going to the doctor. But I was so reluctant prior to that. And then there was pushback. There was pushback because of the medication and how the psychiatrists and the therapists work. It's like, you know, you have your psychiatrist that give you the medication that requires the blood levels, and you have the therapists that will focus on you. So I didn't have what I felt, I did not have the best health system because I didn't connect with the therapist. It was more of a group therapy that she wanted. But I was fortunate to change my health plan because the job was changing. I left. And once I got connected with Wayne State, actually, Wayne State, their therapists and their psychiatrists work together, but you spend more one-on-one time with the therapist.
Of course, yeah.
And that was my beginning of my journey of recovery. Even though I was on medication for a few years, I can remember it only took her 3 years to get me off of where I was just headed towards what some would say a lifetime of medication.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't understand, because you know I'm a licensed therapist, and a lot of people don't understand that a psychiatrist is going to provide the medication, but the therapist is going to provide the healing journey.
Yes.
It's going to allow you to talk through those things that really lead you on a path towards a mental health illness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I received. When I left one system and I went to Wayne State, I don't want to talk about the other system. I want to be clear about the one that really helped me through.
Of course.
Is that this therapist was focused on, well, how did you get to where you are now? How did you, what are some of the things that motivated you? She brought so much out of me, and when we got to talking about habits, she wanted me to think about making some matrix of habits that will heal me so I can start my journey of getting off of medication. And it was a very challenging journey.
Yeah.
It's because, you already have to deal with these powerful medications, and you only look for some way to remain doing the things that you do. You're used to doing them, And a lot of people don't know with those type of drugs, how tired you are, how you feel you're not as aggressive as you want to be. So just dealing with that, but I was able to work out my own habit matrix, my personal habit matrix.
Yeah, it's interesting because you've written a book about it. Yeah. And
Yes.
I want to actually talk about that because
Sure.
as you reflect on your journey of transformation, you described, and you've talked to me about this, about how you felt incorporating the transformative habits into your daily life. And so can you talk about those habits, but also what were the emotions and challenges that you were experiencing during that time, and how did you address those different varying emotions? Because what a lot of people don't understand is as you are on medication, as you're trying to get the levels correct, and as you start to wean off, and you did talk about that and share that with me when we spoke, there is a variety of emotions that you experience that can be kind of overwhelming. And there are challenges that you experience as a result of that. So can you kind of talk about those?
Yes. It's important to know, because this mental illness is a stigma. And with men, we handle the toughness even through our getting on medication or getting the health care that we need. So I fought the situation of healing through this whole process on medication and trying to act as if I was the same person. So my youngest, which is my daughter, was involved in so much. And if I can be transparent, it was kind of like an embarrassment. One of the most embarrassing moments in my life, which made a change, because I was on this medication and I would go to work. I had my 3-piece suit on, shoes, everything, come home, 5 o'clock, and sunlight still out. I would get into bed with my clothes on and shoes on, and I would just sleep. I would lay there. I don't even know if I was asleep most of the time. And it was interesting that my daughter, she was so involved in so much. In this particular moment, she had a dance recital she had to go to, or a practice for a recital. And she came, and she's trying to get my attention, and she was late, but the door shut. And she knocks on the door, and I can remember there was a little sunlight coming through the room. She knocks on the door, and I get up. And I said, well, she said, I'm late. And then she looked at me, she said, Daddy, you peed on yourself.
Oh, no.
And I said, no, I spilled some water. She said, yes, you peed on yourself.
Okay.
At that moment, I can feel this light. This light was shining in on me. And I froze to that embarrassing moment to say that I either have to really go through this journey of getting off this medication and understanding me, and to be in the situation. It was something that happens, the accidents happen, but what it took for me is being in that moment and knowing that I had to really get better. And as I shared those moments, my therapist was ready to hear about my day and the routines of what I went through since the last time we saw each other. So it was moments where I knew I had to make those adjustments. Being embarrassed, trying to channel my emotions around people without saying much, getting away from certain people, all of those things came in perspective as far as that. And that led me to really taking a deep dive into what kind of habits that I wanted. Before I even wrote the book, I write these 7 habits, but they came from me just taking a deep understanding of prayer and meditation. And when I talk about as visualizing faith, is it didn't necessarily mean a religious faith. It was faith in a strong way. Where did I see myself?
Gotcha.
And so I had to constantly visualize where I wanted to be. And just changing my diets, eating the right food, because I learned later that the chocolates and the caffeines that I was eating had an impact on the medication that I was taking.
Okay.
So I had a lot to deal with when I went through that, exercising and just finding my way through a program that I can really stay on,
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you haven't talked about, and I do want to bring it up in today's interview, I would say, is the importance of support systems. A lot of people don't realize the importance of a support system, and so a lot of the work that I do with clients when they come is, one, identifying if they are lacking a support system and helping them establish one if they don't have one. So I've heard that you were going through this journey, the embarrassment, the identification that significant change needed to happen in your life, working with someone that's helping you integrate habits, and you sharing the habits that you are naturally doing, and I think that you're probably learning that you need to apply in your life to continue on this road towards health and healing, and to better position yourself for the ultimate success that you were working so hard for. But I think it sounds like probably an extreme, excessive way that you're going to do, not only when you have that disorder, but also I think people do it without the diagnosis. They just, go. But when you're making significant change, sometimes it's very helpful to have people along the way that are supporting the changes that you're making. So talk about how important it was to have a support system. And also, one of the things that you've shared with me is how important it is to have resources to make changes. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. I was thinking back where the difference of the therapist that helped me find my pathway prior, it was the group therapy that I sat in wasn't what I was looking for, because I'm hearing about people with situations that I didn't believe that wasn't me. I mean, they had personal stories. If anyone knows about group sessions, they had personal stories. So when I got away from that, I used my support system was not just my therapist, but she gave me directions to, I was a motivational speaker even before that, is to find ways to stick with that and go into programs and really pay attention to what it is to really be motivated and really put positivity in your life. And so that's when I started out finding authenticity. I was able to get certified as an authenticity coach, but the person that supported me really had some information about the inner to outer thinking and thoughts and how you have to go through that whole process. So each time those opportunities to find somebody that was speaking towards just positive environments. Now, believe it or not, I was in one of the worst negative environments at work, because I still worked in a casino. And you were in situations where people are there to seek entertainment, but for the most part, you hear about the stories of people losing money, so you have to fight your way through that. So I can remember times that I would take my books and my information and be on the stairwell and motivate myself to find great ways of just building more of this positivity that we talk about. And then I had different relationships with people who were very well into the Bible. They would have Bible studies at work, and I connected with them just to listen to them or be around certain people. But it was so important to find support systems, finding ways, continual ways to get off of the medication and feel free from it.
Yeah.
And it was a journey. It was a journey to do both, is to not just be able to say, I'm ready to get off medication. It's how do I handle myself in that transition?
Okay. Yeah, and I wanted you to touch on that because, and just to give you a heads up, we have about probably about 5 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. I would like you to talk about that decision to get off medication, and what was it like, and where you are today.
Yeah. Once we, myself and the therapist, determined the times of blood levels going down and it's time to make a decision, I kept asking about it, and she determined through her and the psychiatrist that, yes, I can handle it. And it was fantastic to know that I was free from the medication. I can go to work and I can feel that I did know how to handle myself at home and at work. It was very challenging at first, but it was the rewarding experience that I needed, And at that time, my daughter, fast forward, because I had been 20 years and then I had worked through that whole process. But when I was getting off of my medication, my daughter was just starting her journey as a doctor, as far as going to she was in her last year of high school, and she wrote a paper on depression.
Did she?
Yes.
Was that inspired by your journey?
It was.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I stumbled over the paper and I read about it, and it was very interesting because that's what she knew she was going to go into in the medical field. So kind of really got me motivated to do that.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the people around us can motivate us in really significant ways, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's the push that we need to go in the right direction. Yeah. I want to give you the opportunity to, as we kind of, bring this very powerful discussion to an end, to share something with those that are going to be listening to your amazing journey and are looking maybe for some motivation to make a significant change in their life. What would you say to someone that has recognized, okay, I may have had some embarrassing moments. I may have just received a diagnosis. I know that I need to make some significant changes in my life, but I'm terribly afraid and I don't quite know what to do. What advice would you share with them?
I highly recommend to reach out to a therapist, because even in our everyday lives, we need therapy. And the continuous of doing things. The one thing that I experienced is after I was off my medication, I dealt with 3 different deaths that came really close. My mother, then my brother, who passed away from a medical situation at the hospital, and my sister committed suicide.
I'm so sorry.
Right after that, as I was trying to help her, she was excited about my journey, and as I was helping her. So it takes a lot to find your own peace. You have to learn if it's the therapy. You need to recognize what you're eating, because a lot of things in foods, I believe, channel different feelings. Your whole body is made up of there's a connection with your body and how you feel. So you have to do that as far as staying close to understanding that you need to be positive, but you might need some help, some therapeutic help through that whole process will be a plus in your way of getting through things.
Well, what you're talking about is what I try to write about, try to speak about, try to really recommend to all my clients. It's kind of like a holistic approach.
Yes.
Understanding that everything that we do, what I say is what you do determines you.
Absolutely.
The things that you do, the things that you think about, the things you listen to, the things that you consume, whether you get physically active or not, it has an impact on you. And if you want to have a positive outcome, you need to do positive things.
Yeah.
So,
I wrote the book, The Habits Don't Lie, because through my journey, I was reading more and more about positive people. And the late Angela May, the poetry said, once the healing take place, go out and help someone.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me. And when I created habits, your habits will determine your level of success, I always thought back to that quote. It's because you often think that you got through something. So, because I waited a long time before I thought I would write a book, because I would say, if I write it, it had to be transparent. And it's very transparent in regards to how the way I lived through the relationship. I had a 27-year marriage that came to an end.
Okay.
And I know that it was the way that I was responding to the relationship. I didn't know myself at that time.
Yeah. Can you say as we end the name of your books?
Oh, my first book is Habits Don't Lie.
Okay.
7 Habits to Overcome Obstacles to Win. And the second one is The Habit Effect, Your Life, Your Money. And I write about my background. It's actually a continuation of the first book. It talks about, even me being a financial expert, how I dealt with going bankrupt because of my spending when I was in my depression mode.
Yeah.
And just not paying attention to things, and how I rebounded from it, and how to help people understand that there's a positive other side to it.
Yes, it is a positive other side to it. And I feel like, Michael, I would like to have you back to talk about some of those other amazing parts of your journey that you've been able to navigate through. I think it would be very helpful to my listeners. All right?
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule that's not too busy anymore. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing journey with my listeners.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Empower It with Angela T. Moore. Feel free to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. New episodes come out weekly. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.